Well, good morning and welcome to our Calvary Adult Forum today. And we're delighted that Sam O'Brien, Executive Director of Literacy Mid-South, will be joining us, not to be confused with Sam Bryant, our sound technician and new proud grandfather. And we're delighted that Sam is with us today. And please come in and join us. Yes. And one of the guests here for the Adult Forum a few months ago, David Waters, wrote a three-part series in the Daily Memphian that some of you may have seen a few years ago about what he sees as the one statistic, the one metric that is probably behind a lot of the Memphis and West Tennessee's problems with poverty, crime, inequality, poor health care, food insecurity. He said there's one metric that probably explains that more than any other thing, and what the surprising metric was: third grade reading levels. And he really did a good job of exploring the relationships in those areas. And he had a personal passion about it because his wife has been a third grade reading teacher, Robin, and had a personal interest in it. And it's such an important work. This year, the Church Home Board, which is a group that has a large fund set aside from years ago to help with programs specifically aimed at children and youth, we've typically done a lot of smaller grants with that program. And this year we decided to do something different. We said we want to do a large grant and target it to really make a difference in an area that would really impact our city in West Tennessee. And after hearing David Waters' article and hearing him speak, we said, let's look at literacy. And so we began conversations with Sam O'Brien, with others at Literacy Mid-South, and we have partnered with them, and we issued typically we fund up to about $150,000 of it, and we allocated $145,000 of that grant funds for this year to Literacy Mid-South for an innovative computer program and other programs aimed really at childhood literacy, but it is going to do a lot more than that, and Sam will be telling you about that. And true partnership is not just about money. It's really about boots on the ground, and many of you have already been involved in that and are here today looking for other ways you can be involved. And I'll share with you that one of our graduating seniors, who you'll hear preach in a few moments, or a few of you just heard her preach, Ella Peoples, that's been a passion of hers throughout her high school career and earlier career, is working in literacy. And so we've already got some folks who are engaged in this, but we want to be further engaged in it, and hope Sam will kind of point us some ways to that. Learned that Sam is a native of Greenwood, Mississippi, and spent a lot of time in recent years in Little Rock, in Scott's old stomping grounds, and did some work with the Clinton School there. He's done a lot of work with the Shelby County schools, and he's bringing a lot of energy and dynamic programs to Literacy Mid-South. Please join me in welcoming Sam O'Brien.
Am I on? Okay. All right. So back up a little bit. Yes, I am from Greenwood, Mississippi. So that means that, again, every once in a while I will throw Southern colloquialisms into the speech as well. I would say that because I do work with a literacy organization, there will be some book sort of analogies that I use. So if I say we're going to close this chapter or we're going to turn the page, just roll with it, because it's just part of what we do. So again, thankful to be here. Thank you all for the invite. Hopefully I can share a lot more about Literacy Mid-South, answer some questions, and continue to build this relationship, because yes, literacy, we believe, is a game changer. It is foundational to every sort of aspect of learning, workforce development, community development, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here. All right, so the way that we look at literacy, here's the first analogy, we look at it across the lifespan. We look at the sort of two bookends, right? One being childhood literacy and the other being adult literacy. And in the middle of that, we believe that Memphis exists in that. So Memphis has the right to be held up by these bookends, and Memphis is only as strong as these bookends are. So if there is weakness here or weakness here, everything falls apart. So we want to talk about what does this bookend theory of change look like for, again, childhood literacy and adult literacy. And that happens across that lifespan. So a little bit about Literacy Mid-South. We've been around since 1974. And a lot of our first foundational program focused on adult literacy. A lot of this was through the Each One Teach One model or through small group tutoring sessions. But since 2011, we've branched out. We started to think about how do we impact the lives of younger learners and where do we impact those lives. And we've been doing this primarily through an out-of-school space. So we have this robust summer programming. We have active after-school programming, and in that space, we impact the learning abilities of children from kindergarten to 5th grade. Again, we believe that literacy is a game changer, foundational for community support and success, and our vision is 100% literacy for the Mid-South. And what that means when we say 100% literacy, it means that literacy exists in every last single sector, and we have to make ourselves present in each one of those sectors for overall regional success. All right, did I jump ahead one? Yeah, I did. So just a kind of overview of our programs, I call these our foundational programs. Bluff City Baby, 0 to 5 years old, a partnership with Regional 1 and Methodist South, where we work with expectant mothers. We give them early literacy materials to read to the children, read to their baby while they're in the womb, and after the baby is born, we give them additional material to help with reading practices as the baby ages. So we're talking 6-month reading material, 9-month reading material, so forth. Also in the backpack that we give them is a card for Books from Birth, which is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library affiliate. So when they fill out that card, children have a book until they turn 5. They get a free book every month until they turn 5. Our out-of-school time network, what I spoke about just now, again, we're looking at, and these are COVID numbers, we impact about 4,000 children each summer through the out-of-school time network. And what we do is we have this robust program focused with AmeriCorps Vistas that go into a lot of these out-of-school and after-school places and help these organizations build up their literacy capacity, their capacity to provide literacy support. So again, when we're thinking about Memphis Athletic Ministries, we're thinking about the Boys and Girls Club, thinking about the YMCA. Traditionally, their summer programs are focused on sports, physical activity. So how can we introduce literacy support into their programming and then help them build their capacity? The reason why that's important is because the summer is typically when the summer slide takes place, and children have a tougher time catching up to the curriculum when they're in classrooms in the fall. So by doing this, we've seen that, and this our pre-COVID numbers, again, COVID complicates everything. Our pre-COVID numbers, we saw that 80% of the children that were part of this effort were more likely to either maintain their learning level or increase. And so we were proud of that. We're thinking like, okay, this has some benefit and this is helpful. And our adult learning program, again, since 1974, this is, again, one-on-one learning or small group tutoring sessions. Oftentimes the adults that come to this space, they're reading at a 6th grade or below level. And they come in with specific life goals. So they may say, I'm a grandparent and I want to read to my grandchild. I've never been able to do that before. We help them reach that goal. Or they say, there's a competency exam at my current place of employment and I'm having trouble with that. So we help them get to that level of competency so they can get that promotion at work. In some cases, there are people that say, I can't pass the written examination part of my driver's license exam. And that prevents me from going to and fro places to even look for employment opportunities. So we help with that as well. So again, we meet adults where they are. We ask them to identify the goals they wish to reach, and we help them reach that goal. Now, we are also a strategic literacy convener, and what that means is, and this goes back to that bookend theory of change, we convene around early literacy, and we convene around adult literacy. In the Early Literacy Consortium, this is a collection of organizations, and we want to develop an early literacy strategy for Shelby County. And I kind of want to explain that a bit. This speaks to a strategy that happens after school, outside of school time. So of course, the school district has an early literacy strategy, and they're committed to that, and they're working forward with that. but we often think when students are dismissed at 3 o'clock, so from 3:01 p.m. until about 7:59 a.m., they're at home. They're in an after-school space. They are away from school is what we're looking at. So how do we occupy that 3:01 p.m. to that 7:59 a.m. space with continual literacy supports in the community so that when they get back into the classrooms, there's no drop-off? The second one here, the network of adult basic literacy and education. Again, this is the way we create a coordinated adult literacy pipeline, again, throughout the region. Again, going back to those spaces, this is how we marry adult work, adult literacy work, back to workforce development and community development and all of those things that provides an adult with purpose that allows them to pursue their passion. So again, and the other part that we also often look at is that a lot of times these adults have children who are in schools. So this allows us to really work that bookend theory of change and impact multi-generational households, because there are adults that are looking to increase their reading proficiencies, and there are students whose learning slide we're trying to prevent by doing this work in the out-of-school space. All right, so why do we convene? Over there on the left-hand, well, my left-hand side, is this graph that the district uses that talks about the impact of inadequate reading skills. So what we look at here, this dark blue part, it says that 1 in 4 children in America grow up without learning how to read. And it starts to talk about how that has an impact across the whole circle. So here in the light blue, it talks that leads to low self-esteem, behavioral issues. This orangish yellow right here talks about how this leads to they're 4 times more likely to drop out. The red part, 4 times more likely to be arrested. The green part, 50% of them are unemployed between the ages of 16 and 21. Full disclaimer, I hate this graphic. I think that it's rooted in a lot of deficit speak that does not capture the resiliency that we know our community to have. But it is a good place to to begin to change this narrative, right? We know that, again, over this first bullet point, our community level goals must align with the district level goals, right? But we also know that here, and this is from the National Literacy Trust, there's overwhelming evidence of the positive relationship parents' own education levels and their involvement in their child's reading development has on their child's academic success. And I bring that out because I want to focus primarily right here, into here, these 2 parts here. So how do we create, again, and build up this bookend theory of change where adults are empowered to increase their reading proficiency, and it impacts the reading proficiency of the children that are in their homes? So when I look at this graph again, I still hate it, but I think about these 2 points here. How do we impact adults, and how do those adults impact the children that live in their homes? So our current challenge, and this really speaks to kind of where we are right now. I've been with Literacy Mid-South for about 8 months now. Prior to that, I worked with an organization that was closely aligned with the school district. I had every intention of coming into this role and kind of doing some easygoing sort of, community-based activity that children can be a part of, and just have fun and just learn and I intended just to have an easier ride. But I get in and I come into the role, I think August 16th. I think August 11th, these TCAP scores were released around, these TCAP scores were released talking about the spring 2021 assessment scores from this assessment. And what we see here, specifically looking, well, you can look at all the grade bands, but specifically looking in the early childhood levels from 3rd to 5th grade, we see that at 2018, 2019, there's a bit of an uptick. We know we can call this improvement, and we see this actually across the other 2 grade bands. 2020, there was no TCAP assessment because COVID pushed everyone out of schools and into their homes, and now we're quarantining. And from there, students are now completely learning in a virtual space until the following March. So from March 2020 to March 2021, students are, again, they're in home learning. But because assessments are coming up and funding for the district is being threatened, we're now asked to students were then asked to return to the schools. And as soon as they get into the schools, they're hit with this assessment. And we see this drop off from 28.4% to 11.4%. That's a drop of negative 17%. Now, there's a lot of context to give here, Again, when I give this graphic, I'm careful to again mention that we are not measuring the resiliency that students have when it comes to things like this. Students were, again, they were engaged. Even though school was virtual, they were still in school. So even speaking to the point of around the district and the way that they did one-to-one device sharing, you will be hard-pressed to find any other school district that had 100,000+ students and were able to get devices to 98% of them. That didn't happen anywhere else in the nation. Our school district did that. The challenge here is not every home is Wi-Fi accessible, because Wi-Fi is not a utility like water or lights. So then there were challenges there. So again, the devices with their connectivity is a whole nother issue. But still, in spite of that, we still have families going to public libraries, going to other people's homes, using their Wi-Fi. People were trying their best. But the end result, again, of being in that space is this 11.4%, and this is our challenge. Also, this was predicted. The Northwest Evaluation Association said that urban school districts and school districts with a majority population of students of color were going to suffer the most. And again, there's context with this. Communities of color suffer from COVID rates higher than any other. So again, there's a lot of context that goes into this when we talk about these scores. It doesn't capture the resilience. It doesn't capture the way that COVID impacted Black and brown communities. It doesn't capture the way that internet accessibility is not always available in Black and brown communities. So there's a lot of context that goes into this graphic. But this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're faced with, and we still have to address it. Another challenge to consider, and I want to go back to the point around third grade reading, how that is the kind of this benchmark for success. What we see in children's books, this is a study that comes from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, 2018. It shows that of the children's books that were published then, 50% of them feature a white character in this positive primary role. So if we look over here, we talk about being mirrored in the curriculum. Here we have the white child here, and all of these mirrors show this level of positivity. Everywhere they look, right here he's an astronaut or race car driver. Here he's a king. There's a mirror ball here. There's a wardrobe mirror here. Here he's a basketball star. All of these levels of positivity that impact self-esteem and also are transmitting a value of how white children are seen in the text. But if we go to the left, we see that animals appear 27% of the time in children's books. And I think y'all can kind of see where this is going. If we go all the way to the left and we add these up, this is 23%. So an animal is likely to be seen in a positive space in a children's book than all of the rest of these ethnic minorities combined. Now, when we think about this, we talk about, again, the way that books transmit values, the way that books impact self-esteem. One thing about this infographic, the mirrors get smaller to show that there's less and less representation, and the mirrors are also damaged. So it's, even when children of color see themselves in a text, it is often not in a positive way. Personally, I have 2 sons, I have a daughter. I don't want to read any more books about slavery. I'd rather they see themselves as race car drivers and astronauts, Supreme Court judges, and so forth. So again, when it comes down to impacting self-esteem, I'd like for my children, like for all children, to be seen in positive spaces equitably in a way that impacts their self-esteem, in a way that impacts in a way that shows that they have value and they should be proud of that. But again, when we're talking about a majority Black school district, when we're talking about curriculum that is state approved, oftentimes this is what we get. And this is the context that goes into third grade reading as that equalizer of sorts that plans out and explains this drop-off in the way that we don't succeed as an entire community. Am I out of line yet? Okay, just checking. So, and let's see, okay, hold on, yeah. So now we're talking about critical race theory. I really bring this up because this speaks to the challenges that teachers have in public education right now. The first bullet point, there are 14 prohibited instructional concepts, 14 prohibited instructional concepts when it relates to critical race theory, and 4 that are non-prohibited. So we're basically telling teachers, many of whom have to adapt in the moment to the learning style of the children that are in the space, have to adapt in the moment to whatever difficulties or challenges that student is dealing with. We're asking them to teach within a combined box of 4 non-prohibited concepts. Now, what does this do? It creates and it completely removes the discussion aspect of a lot of curriculum. We were talking earlier about Nathan Bedford Forrest. So it is no longer this discussion about Nathan Bedford Forrest and what his businesses were. It is more so true or false. Nathan Bedford Forrest was a Confederate general. And that is how the curriculum gets limited. Like we're in many ways, we minimize curriculum down to this true-false sort of dichotomy, and sort of instead of this educational exchange of ideas and communication that brings out so much that we learn about ourselves, so much we learn about each other, so much we learn about the places in which we live. That's the issue with critical race theory. And again, the other issue is that in Tennessee and Mississippi, because I'm from Mississippi too, the law does not use the words critical race theory. It just says what you can't teach. So this is more so of a I would say, a political dog whistle than anything else. And when I last checked, there's only one class on critical race theory in the state, in Memphis, Tennessee, and it's taught at the law school over here on Front Street. I checked with the district, and they confirmed that they are not busing 3rd graders over to the law school. I checked with them again, and law school professors are not teaching 3rd grade history. So again, this is all just, it's a stalling tactic. And I think the strength of this law is that it's so vague that a person can have a complaint, and then that teacher will be tied up in defending themselves against why this is or is not rooted in critical race theory. There's a question in the back?
I'm a teacher with the school district, and I think it needs to be pointed out because it always seems to be forgotten that these laws, when it comes to CRT, are impacting more than just history classes.
Yes.
I teach state dual credit psychology. I also teach psychology and sociology, and I'm tap dancing on that line every day in those classes because there are things I'm not supposed to address in my classroom, do it anyway, but I'm not supposed to address certain things in my classroom in those courses because of, things like implicit bias. I'm not supposed to teach that. And in the past, on the state dual credit courses, we have offered sociology. We are no longer able to offer sociology as a state dual credit course because it violates state law.
Right. And another example, I think we saw in the news, math textbooks in Florida were banned because they were believed to have aspects of critical race theory in them. Math. I can't explain that one. But thank you for that point, and thank you for offering that experience. Yeah. Right. And let's see. All right, okay, so in response, this is what we had to do. Now, keep in mind, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are not a lobbying organization, but we understand that if we're gonna promote literacy, we have to have a stance, we have to have a position, all right? Now, Our policy position and priority, our position, again, this is rooted in research. We believe that when children are mirrored in the curriculum, students are motivated, engaged, and a sense of belonging is promoted, right? And why is that? The increased presence and increased use of culturally and historically relevant early literacy material helps to increase positive self-esteem. It alleviates behavioral issues, and it decreases grade retention. Remember that circle at the beginning with all the arrows? This is how we undo that circle. This is how we build up and turn that circle completely around, so that instead of 1 in 4 children reading adequately at a grade level, it's 4 out of 4 children reading adequately at a grade level, because we've made sure that culturally and historically relevant material is in those households. Now, laws of our critical race theory don't apply to Literacy Mid-South. We hand out close to 40,000 brand new books every year, and we understand that we have a diverse population here in Shelby County. We understand that we have African American students. We understand that we have a rising number of Spanish-speaking populations, and the books that we distribute are reflective of that. And we want to make sure that children receive those, as long as we continue to get funding. We want to make sure that children receive those books and see themselves in the curriculum. If I break it, I don't have to buy it, do I? So one thing that we've done here, just real quick, we've helped the district have equity-centered lending libraries in their schools. Each of the schools have an identified equity champion, and what we've done, we've helped distribute these books to those equity champions so that they can develop lending libraries that are grade-specific in their classrooms. Really just speaks to the way that we do book distribution throughout the year. The other thing we're going to do is just have this campaign around Read 901. This also goes back to that bookend theory of change. We want to create this info hub where people can log on and see where they fit along this reading across the lifespan initiative, right? So what we want to do, again, the hashtag, the website actually is active. Read901.org is active, and please use the hashtag, liberally. But again, when we're talking about how do we get a community engaged in the art of literacy, how do we get them engaged in how literacy impacts and touches every last single thing, this is how we do it. And probably in the next few months, you'll start to see these on billboards, sides of buses, and so forth. Here I want to get into what is funded by the Episcopal Diocese. We understand that in order to do this work successfully, we have to have a place-based approach to doing the work. This is how we move the needle. A lot of educational efforts, despite their best efforts, have this sort of spray and pray approach, right? And again, Southern colloquialism. My dad is an old Marine, and he preferred a rifle to a shotgun because he could be targeted with it. This is our rifle approach. We want to find school feeder patterns where a child is going from elementary, middle to high school in their neighborhood and provide literacy supports in that elementary, middle, and high school. And we want to do it in partnership with an anchor community partner, which is why I bring up this map of the Raleigh area and around North Memphis. Now, the other part about For the Kingdom being the strategic community partner, they've adopted 8 schools in this space. So when we talk about having a community partner that is fully engaged, that is offering meal programs to about 1,500 families in the space, we can partner with that, with our curriculum, with Reading Checkup, and talk about ways that we build family literacy connections in the home so that when kids get into the schools, they're not missing a beat, that they're plugged in. So about Reading Checkup, and this is what you all funded. So here are the bullet points. Yes, empowers families with insights into their child's reading level and strategies to help guide their literacy development. Oftentimes, parents don't know what level their child reads at. Oftentimes, that information is often housed with a school district or within the school. A parent may not understand the difference between a 2nd grade or a 3rd grade reading level. A parent may think that, well, if they're in third grade, reading on third grade level, that's fine, which it is, it's okay. But there's nothing wrong. We wanted to push a little bit further. That's what Reading Checkup helps us do. It is an on-the-spot assessment that is given, and a parent knows at which level that their child reads. And that's what makes it interactive. A parent has to log in, has to participate, and has to see this information. Now, through the tool, families, so adults and children are working together to support the reading development. And it goes into this third bullet point, adaptive assessments and the ability to track progress over time. Adaptive is the key word. A lot of times, a lot of online programming just starts and it increases just automatically. Reading Checkup sees how the child is progressing, and it increases in an adaptive way. It doesn't have this automatic increase to where a child may get stumped at some point and give up. It understands that, okay, they had a problem with this word. They had a problem with this phrasing. So let's slowly build this up and build them to a point of proficiency and competency. It doesn't just start at 1 and go to 10 automatically. It may hang out at 1 for a little bit, then maybe move to 3 for a little while, and then the child really gets confident. Maybe they're sitting at a 5, and it may rest there. And then it continues to work there until the child gets to the place that they need to be. This is important because when we talk about not leaving children behind, when we talk about curriculum kind of escaping from a child and not allowing that space to learn, this is why this is important. It allows that space to adapt, allows that space to become comfortable and competent, and allows that space to get better. And they can't do it unless they're doing it with the parent. So that's the other part about it. So this is not some sort of thing where a child plops in front of a computer and they're there for 30, 40 minutes unsupervised. The parent is plugged in and tuned in with it. The space that I showed earlier, the map, we call it a literacy zone, and this is the connection to the literacy zone. Now, again, going back to the targeted approach, we identify a space, identify a feeder pattern, connected to a community, connected to an anchor institution in the community, and by implementing this literacy zone strategy, what we do, we start to move the needle in many cases of schools that are where the impact will be the greatest. So, and I guess I want to walk it back for a little bit. There's nothing wrong with helping everybody. There's nothing wrong with helping everybody. But again, research shows that when you start in an equitable way and meet the students who have the greatest need, oftentimes that's your biggest lift to move that needle. And this is what we're doing with literacy zones. We're looking at those feeder patterns, we're looking at what they call quality seat data that shows how students perform in these feeder patterns. And using that and infusing Reading Checkup with that, we then begin to see how we can help students, again, in real time, in the moment, in those literacy zones. And we say that this is the connective tissue of family literacy components, because again, when we think about that book in Theory of Change, this is how we connect parents to students and keep them all engaged with where a student is at the moment. This is just a flyer. We did a Reading Checkup event in partnership with the Raleigh Library some time ago. Yeah, with the Raleigh, because we've done like 2 or 3 of these, so I had to make sure this was the Raleigh flyer, sorry. Yeah, we've done this in partnership again with For the Kingdom, Stand for Children, Memphis Public Libraries. It's real weird to do a book giveaway at a library, but we did it. Parents came up, students were returning books to the library, and then they stopped by our table, they did the assessment, they saw where they were, and we were able to give them a corresponding book that was along their grade level to help them out. So again, this is, real time. The assessment takes very little time, but being able to just, deliver and distribute a book in that real time moment to help with their proficiency was a huge help. All right, now, getting into volunteerism and how you can help. First things first, this whole table over here, you cannot come to this event. This is a 21 and older event that we call Literatini. It is a martini tasting judging competition. We do this in partnership with with Novel Booksellers, located in Laurelwood Shopping Center over by Oak Court Mall. This is our signature fundraiser. So, as far as volunteers for this, we could use some help with hosting, staffing of that aspect. So it is kind of like a bar competition of sorts. So those things is like checking IDs at the door, making sure that everyone that comes in is 21. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Even things like making sure that bartenders have enough ice, kind of just being present in the moment, helping with those bartending and food service needs is where we could use volunteers for this space. This is June 11th. Yeah, June 11th, 7 o'clock, Novel Booksellers in Laurelwood Shopping Center. How else can you help? Our adult learning program, we're having an information session May 11th for anyone that's interested in becoming a volunteer tutor. This is about I want to say it's about a 6-week commitment. So again, if you would love to volunteer, help that grandparent that wants to read to their grandchild, help that person that's looking to get to the next level of promotion at their job, these are the folks that come in this space. At May 11th, I'll get a time to you. I don't have the time right now. But again, this is an each one, teach one sort of effort, but also it's done in small group tutoring sessions. So, I think when it's done in a small group session, that really depends on, I would say, the confidence that a learner may have. Not everyone is open about their reading challenges, so they may want to focus on one-on-one, but there are some folks that are like, well, look, it's a problem. The more people that can help me, the better. So again, typically one-on-one, but there might be small group sessions that are possible as well. How else can you help? We give away approximately 40,000 new books every year. And I'm careful when I say this next part. We give away more books than Barnes & Noble and Books A Million because they sell theirs. So our books are brand new, out of the box, not bent up, the pages are not dog-eared, brand new. We give away more books than the library because at the library you have to return them. So again, nobody moves more brand new books in this region than Literacy Mid-South. And I'm proud to say that. The first picture up here, last year, the district did Read Across 901. We donated, I think, about 20,000 books to that effort. Brand new, again, out the box, never been used. But we actively look for partner opportunities. We believe that children need to have access to literacy in every waiting space there is. So that may be a laundromat, that may be a barber shop, that may be a doctor's office. So if anyone has connections to laundromats, barbershops, or doctor's offices, let us build some sort of lending library or some sort of bookshelf space in those spaces where children are often waiting. Okay, this is how we, in many ways, saturate an area with literacy. We've heard about, food deserts and banking deserts and all these spaces where opportunity is dry. Oftentimes, you can throw a book desert in there as well. So how do we saturate these places with literacy so that people have access to the things they need to learn how to read? Here's my contact information. I am Sam O'Brien. This is the first time I met a Sam Bryant. My whole life, people keep dropping the O in my name. So to actually meet a Sam Bryant is awesome. But again, I'm Sam O'Brien, S. O'Brien at literacymidsouth.org. We are on all the social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. And our website is there, literacymidsouth.org. So that's my time for talking, but I'm ready to answer questions. And again, thank you for having me.
I've got a question. You mentioned Literacy, is that what you call it?
Literatini?
Is there a reading test after the martinis?
No, but we do ask that you take in moderation, or we will have to take your keys from you.
I think I'm impressed that since last August, you've been executive director. And
Yes.
you're articulate advocate for this wonderful issue. I think it's great. Two questions. One, seems that this is an issue, this third grade reading level is an issue for everything that's going on in Memphis. Do you have any funding from the city, state, or federal government?
Nope. So one thing that compounds it being an issue, and I may be editorial here for a moment. I think that it's tough for some governmental spaces to draw that line from third grade reading to community viability. So it is not a priority as I see it. Now, the state government is a little bit different. One thing that they've done through, I think, the excess ESSER funding and COVID relief money, they have begun to release some community partner grants to focus on what you will see called high dosage tutoring. So this is when adults come into a school, maybe 10 at a time, and they do these pullouts where it's one adult tutoring 3 children, and they do this throughout the day. So you're going to see, I think, an influx of that, and a lot of that funding is coming from the federal government. It is coming from, because it's ESSER funding, it's coming from the federal government and coming from the state government. Locally, I think that, again, there's always these political headbutts that that city government has had with the local district, and I think that prevents a flow of resources to do anything about third grade reading.
Thank you. Second question, partnerships. I'm kind of confused. There was a Memphis Literacy Council. Currently, Penny Aronson is running Shelby Literacy Council.
Right.
You're the Mid-South Literacy Council. What about partnerships?
Right, so here's a quick history. When we were founded in 1974, we were the Memphis Literacy Council. Carried that name on for quite some time, and then there was an organization called Mid-South Reads. Somewhere around 2008, I believe, those two merged and became Literacy Mid-South. So that's us. The Shelby Literacy Council used to be, I think I'm getting this right, there used to be Collierville Literacy Council. I think they've rebranded again into Shelby Literacy Council. We do partner with them, we have partnered with them. I think at the same time they're starting to shape what their program looks like. And when they shape that up, we're ready to connect with them again. But part of that rebranding also calls for, I guess, a refocusing of what they want to focus on. And after they do that, we'll be right there ready to go.
Question?
Yeah. Your name's Sam?
Yes, just Sam.
My name's Michael.
How you doing?
I taught English in 3 countries. I taught English in Japan. I taught it to 2-year-olds. Now, I don't imagine you're teaching to anybody that young, but my 2-year-olds were easier to teach than the 55-year-olds. I'll send you an email on what I've got here in notes, because I could go on for 20 minutes and bore all these people to tears.
Thank you.
Questions or comments? Yeah, Bill?
Do you train your volunteers
Yes.
how to teach?
Yes. So yes, our adult learning program does that, because in addition to engaging around the actual curriculum, there's also, I call it sensitivity training, but that's not the name of it. But there's also an understanding of there will be some challenges with adults that come into the space because they've been separated from, I would say, a formal learning experience for quite some time. That's also included in the training. But yes, all of our volunteers are trained and given expectations of how they need to engage.
Do you partner with any volunteer organizations around the city? One of them, just because it's one I'm involved in, is through Junior League, just because we're out in some of the community centers and that kind of stuff, where you could use their volunteers or other similar organizations around the city.
I want to say we recently received a grant from Junior League. I'm not sure. But yes, we do.
So that's like,
Right. So yeah, we do. A lot of our volunteerism primarily happens through our adult learning space. So again, connecting with Volunteer Memphis, Volunteer Odyssey, and the other host of volunteer organizations, we've kind of had these running relationships with them for quite a few years.
yeah, I was mainly thinking, like, when you were talking about giveaway opportunities, because so many of these different volunteer organizations, you know, host these events and these different, that they'd be great for giveaways and
And we want to keep doing the giveaways. So any connections you have, please let me know, and we'll keep that going.
Other comments or questions? Anything from online, Robin? Okay. Want to make sure that our folks out there know that they're a part of the conversation. Well, I want to express extraordinary gratitude for, oh, did I miss one?
I'd like he was raising his hand. I'm sorry. I don't want to call you out. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just gratitude for your telling us more and more about this extraordinary program and the work that y'all are doing and the partnership that we have through the church and shared values about literacy in this program. I don't know, Paul, if you want to say anything more about your connections.
Well, just excited about this, and I know that we've got a lot of talent in this room and throughout Calvary, retired teachers, others who I think would have a lot of passion and interest in this. And I was just curious, before you go, you mentioned For the Kingdom, I guess, is a nonprofit that's adopting some schools in the target area.
Yes.
Are there volunteer opportunities with them or with other after-school programs or things during the summer?
I would say that with For the Kingdom, yes. And if y'all have never been out there before, they're out on Raleigh-Millington Road. It's a 100-acre campus where they do a lot of team building exercises. So yeah, they're rock climbing walls and zip lines and all that. But they also have a meeting space that I think that a great number of after-school programs happen in that space. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for partnership and definitely alignment, because everything is Christ-centered, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's something that can grow from there.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we typically give our adult forum speaker a $200 honorarium, and Sam asked that this go to Literacy Mid-South, to this initiative, so we mailed you a check earlier this week.
Excellent.
And so we're delighted to partner with you in that way, and hopefully we can partner with you in lots more ways. Let's give a warm round of applause to Sam O'Brien. Thank you very much, and you do not want to miss our 2 senior sermons here shortly.